Halloween. Leave now while you still can.
Leave now before Master finds you.
Who is that knocking at my door? Who is that knocking at my door? Who is that knocking at my door? Be gone with you.
Hello everyone, today's video I'll be reviewing The Evil of Frankenstein from 1964. After the way Revenge of Frankenstein ended, when I first saw this, I was expecting a follow to Revenge. I thought we will see Dr. Frankenstein a second time have his fake identity being exposed again. Was also expecting something really good and had high hopes for this movie. But sadly that's not the case for me right here. From here onward, Hammer rebooted the Hammer Frankenstein series, no follow-up to the first movie. I didn't like that they broke continuity of the last two films. It felt a little bit thrown off for me. With the first two Hammer Frankensteins being a big hit and success, this is not the worst of Hammer Frankenstein, this is one of the weak ones of the series. I don't hate this one, I have mixed feelings about it. Hey everyone, it kinda got a little bit too bright on the other side, so I decided to pick a different spot to film this video. This movie was not directed by Terrence Fisher. Instead, it was directed by Freddie Francis, who directed a lot of Hammer horror movies. Freddie Francis was a well-known cinematographer of movies like The Elephant Man, Dune, directed by David Lynch, Glory, which won the Academy Award for Best Cinematography. He also did cinematography for Martin Scorsese's Cape Fear remake. Originally, Terrence Fisher was going to direct this movie, but he got into an automobile accident and had to back out to recover from the accident. I think it was not for the accident. If he directed this movie, this could have been a better movie. Freddie Francis' direction is not bad or horrible. It's just that he's no Terrence Fisher. He does not match the same style as Terrence Fisher. Some of the good parts of this movie are the set designs are cool and some of the best designs of the series. Because the budget was bigger, they improved the set designs. Cushing does an okay job. He was the kind of actor, no matter the movie, he always managed to give a good performance and make the best of it, even like a movie that was like average mediocre. His Frankenstein character is less evil and more anti-hero in this movie compared to the last two Hammer Frankenstein movies. This movie is a Universal and Hammer movie combined because it was distributed by Universal when the film was being made. What a great combination. Universal and Hammer teaming up together making a Frankenstein movie together. How much cooler can you get? Coming from someone who loves the Universal monsters, one would think I would have loved this movie, but sadly the opposite is true for me. With Universal financing this movie, they had complete control over this movie, and Hammer did what they were told by Universal, how they wanted this film to be. Whenever you're watching this movie for this movie review, I pointed out and noticed how this had some similar elements of House of Frankenstein and other Frankenstein Universal monster movies. For example, for instance, when Frankenstein, Hans, and the beautiful, mute, red-headed homeless woman find the monster in a frozen ice underground lair, this reminded me of Frankenstein meets the Wolfman in House of Frankenstein. When Lawrence Talbot finds the monster in Frankenstein meets the Wolfman, Dr. Nemo and Daniel find the Frankenstein monster and the Wolfman in House of Frankenstein. Dr. Frankenstein and Han use fire to unfreeze the monster, similar to House of Frankenstein. Just like House of Frankenstein, when Dr. Nemo and Daniel are on their journey, searching for the Frankenstein's monster, they meet a beautiful gypsy woman named Ilonka. Daniel takes an interest in liking Ilonka. In this movie, it said Dr. Frankenstein and Hans meet and find a beautiful redhead, homeless mute woman with an unknown name. Instead, Dr. Frankenstein and Hans, it's not they don't like her, they don't take an interest in loving her. They bring her along the journey because she's an outsider with no home or family, and they bring her along for the ride because she won't rat out Dr. Frankenstein. There's no love triangle in this movie. I don't know why, when I was watching this movie, this character made me think, remind you, not that I have proof of this, if this is 100% true. Is it possible that this mute girl with an unknown name was a possible inspiration for Guillermo del Toro's The Shape of Water? Knowing Guillermo del Toro, he loves classic horror movies, and I would not be surprised if he took inspiration from the character of Elijah, played by Sally Hawkins' character in The Shape of Water, because both characters are mute. But of course, they have different, stories. The downside of this movie, it's very slow-paced, boring. It's hard for me to get sucked and drawn into this movie. The plot is a little confusing at times, and it has no idea what direction it wants to go into. Despite not being a fan of this movie, I will say, this unknown mute homeless woman was the one okay part of this movie. You really felt bad for her the way she was treated poorly by society. She was bullied, she was an outsider because she can't communicate with people how she wants to. Not knowing her full background story, I'm not sure if sign language existed around this time period. Despite Dr. Frankenstein being an evil man, the one okay and good thing he does is treat her with respect, better than the other jerks in this movie. And the same with Hans too. They show a little compassion to her. She takes a liking to the monster, a little bit of Beauty and the Beast story. She sees that the monster is not dangerous, just needed love, caring, nurturing, and to be taught lessons. As I said before, I will say it again, sorry for repeating myself, Peter Cushing still does a good job in this movie. No matter what Peter Cushing did, always made the best any movie, no matter its quality. He's always fun to watch, good or bad movie, Cushing always puts effort into the movie. But despite Cushing still managing a decent performance, he's not well written like in the last two movies. They were a little bit different compared to the last two films. Dr. Frankenstein also had a hatred towards this character called the Burgermeister. I don't know why, the name sounds like a hamburger dish on a menu at a burger restaurant. It's crazy when him and Hans are at a restaurant wearing Robin Hood masks to blend in, he exposes himself too fast when he spots the Burgermeister telling the police to arrest him because he stole something from him that belonged to him. I don't think the police would not have arrested Burgermeister, would obviously have arrested Frankenstein because of his reputation, the chaos he caused for the town. Once again, the assistant's name is Hans. The last Hans actor from the last movie was a jerk. This one's a little bit more likable. This is not the same Hans from Revenge. I'm not sure why they had to use the same name if this was a different character named Hans. Despite this movie is not a follow-up sequel, they use the same castle set designs from The Curse of Frankenstein that look almost identical. It makes me wonder, was this supposed to be a follow-up to The Curse of Frankenstein, not Revenge? That did not happen. I don't know. It sounds like maybe Revenge did not happen. They were going for just ignore Revenge. Let's make this a semi-follow-up sequel to The Curse of Frankenstein. Sorry for my rant there. The flashback storyline being explained on Dr. Frankenstein, they don't use old footage from The Curse of Frankenstein. They use the same story format, just a redo on the Dr. Frankenstein story background. It doesn't make any sense that they redid the storyline. I guess Universal did not want Hammer to recycle footage from The Curse of Frankenstein. After Frankenstein's failed creation experiment gone wrong, he was banned from the town, and yet he comes back to try to make another creation. I guess Frankenstein did not get the memo. I'm not sure if I'm saying this 100% correctly, but from what I remember in the film, the reason why Frankenstein goes back to the old town that he was banned from is because he thought that his old equipment would work better on creating a new monster compared to what he was using at the time early in the film. But again, I could be wrong about that one. The hypnotist was a real jerk. You can say he's the real main villain in this movie. All he cares about is money and sees the monster can be a profit. Dr. Frankenstein is not thinking about money. All he wanted to do was make his creation show he did something different in science. When the hypnotist tells the monster to kill people, he hated wanting revenge. This reminded me of Son of Frankenstein when Igor tells the monster to kill people. He wanted revenge on the people who hung him. This part also made me think of The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari to some degree. The monster makeup look was okay. It's no Jack Pierce, but it was just okay. I guess they tried not to copy Jack Pierce too much. The monster makeup is a poor man's imitation of Boris Karloff. Despite it's not the best looking makeup effect, but it was still nice they tried to pay a little homage to the original Frankenstein monster of Jack Pierce. The makeup design looks like something a 5th grader did in art class. The monster was played by Kiwi Kingston, who was a New Zealand professional wrestler. Kiwi Kingston does an okay job as the monster. He had a little more screen time than the last two did. The movie ends where Dr. Frankenstein the monster burned an exploding laboratory set, Once again, just like the endings of Universal's Ghost of Frankenstein, House of Frankenstein, Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman, and House of Dracula. This movie basically took the same cliches as the previous Universal Frankenstein movies, but done in color. Despite my mixed feelings on this movie, I've noticed that a lot of Hammer fans either like or dislike this movie. This seems to be like a mixed movie. It's nice to see Universal and Hammer team up together, but my high expectations were not impressive for me and did not satisfy my needs. Again, I don't hate this one. It's a movie that just does not seem to grow on me. It doesn't seem to improve for me no matter how many times I rewatch this movie. I try to find some good in it, but I guess not seeing the big picture. It's not the worst by all means, just a weak movie that did not live up to my expectations. As I wrap up this video, here's a little story for you that will make you laugh. Last year around the Halloween season, my dad saw this movie for the first time. My grandfather watched it with us. He doesn't even like horror movies, but he thought this movie was not too bad. Coming from someone who's not even a big movie buff like me and my dad are, but I cannot tell you what his thoughts were on this movie. So that was my review of The Evil of Frankenstein. Stay tuned for tomorrow for Frankenstein Created Woman. See you tomorrow.